I need to tell you about something that happened 10 years ago in southern Kentucky, and I'm still not entirely sure how Emma Jeffrey survived it. August 15th, 2015. Middle of summer, stupid hot outside, and a bunch of teenagers from Camp Wilderness decided it would be a good idea to go poking around Duffield Cave. Not some sanitized tourist trap with handrails and gift shops. This was a real deal. Local cavers knew about it. Everyone else should have probably left it alone. Emma was 17. Quiet kid, but not in a shy way. More like she was always thinking 3 steps ahead of everyone else. She'd been caving since she was 12, which in that world makes you practically a veteran. While other kids her age were worried about who liked who or what to wear to homecoming, Emma was reading trip reports from places like Ellison's Cave and fantasizing about doing the rappel in a fantastic pit someday. Her youth leader, Mr. Peterson, had taken groups underground probably 50 times. He wasn't worried about Emma. Nobody was. The first hour underground was perfect. You know that feeling when you're somewhere you're not supposed to be, but it's not quite dangerous yet? That electric buzz of doing something that feels a little wild? That's what it was like. Headlamps bouncing off limestone that had been forming for millions of years. Someone made a joke about finding buried treasure. Someone else kept doing this thing where they'd whisper just to hear it echo back. Standard cave trip stuff. Then they hit the pretzel. Look, when cavers give something a cute nickname like that, it's usually because the real description would be too horrifying. The pretzel was this series of passages that twisted back on themselves in ways that didn't make geological sense. You'd be crawling forward, then suddenly you're going up, then you're corkscrewing left, and your brain starts to lose track of which way is out. The gaps between the rock walls got tighter and tighter until you weren't crawling anymore. You were more like threading a needle with your own body. Most of the group took one look at the entrance and went nope. And they were right too. But Emma stood there studying it. I think she saw it like a puzzle. She'd solved harder squeezes before. She'd done the Devil's Pinch over in Mammoth Cave the previous summer. Mr. Peterson had told her parents about it, and her mom had nearly grounded her. This couldn't be worse than that. She dropped her stomach and went in. The first section was manageable. Tight, sure. Her shoulders scraped limestone on both sides. Her helmet kept knocking against the ceiling, making this dull clunk sound that was somehow worse than nails on a chalkboard. But she'd been through worse. She knew how to move, slow, deliberate. Don't fight the rock. Let it tell you where to go. She made it through the first bend, then the second. There was this upward curve that forced her to basically do a vertical push-up in a space the size of a dishwasher. She got through that too. Then came the right-hand turn. She angled her shoulder, started to rotate her hips the way you're supposed to, and just stopped. Not like she chose to stop. Her body just wouldn't go any further. Her right shoulder was pressed so hard against the wall, she could feel her pulse in it. Her left hip was locked against the opposite side. She tried to shift backward. Couldn't. Try to push forward. Nothing. She was wedged in there like a cork in a bottle. And here's the thing about being truly stuck underground. Your brain doesn't want to believe it first. You think, no, this is just awkward positioning. I just need to adjust. So she tried adjusting. Wiggled her hips. Pushed with her toes. Tried to pull with her fingertips. Every single movement just wedged her tighter. The rock didn't care that she was an experienced caver. The rock didn't care about anything. She could barely expand her lungs. Each breath was this shallow little sip of air. The limestone was cold against her chest, against her cheek, against every inch of her that was touching it. And that was a lot of inches. She tried yelling. It came out weak, swallowed by stone. The others were maybe 30 feet away, but they might as well have been in another country. They were chatting, probably telling more stupid jokes, completely unaware that Emma was trapped in a geological vice. I don't know exactly how long she was alone in there before someone noticed. The reports say about 10 minutes. 10 minutes doesn't sound like much, does it? Try lying on your stomach on your kitchen floor right now, with your arms pinned and your face pressed into the tile. Count to 60, then do it 9 more times. See how long that feels. When someone finally said, "Where's Emma?" the panic was immediate. They scrambled to the entrance of the pretzel and saw her headlamp, still on, illuminating nothing but rock inches from her face. They tried pulling her feet. They tried pushing her shoulders from behind. One kid had the bright idea to pour water around her to make her slippery. The water just soaked into the limestone and into her clothes. Now she was stuck and wet. That's when the hypothermia started. People don't realize how fast your body temperature drops when you're not moving and you're soaked and you're surrounded by stone that's been a constant 52 degrees for millennia. Emma started shivering so hard her teeth were chattering. Then the shivering slowed down, which is actually worse. Her mind started going. One of the rescuers who eventually got to her said she was talking to the cave walls, having whole conversations with them, asking them questions. Above ground, it turned into a full emergency response. Fire department, paramedics, police, none of whom had any cave rescue training. They sent their smallest firefighter down. He couldn't get to her, not even close. The pretzel had been designed by geology to keep people out, and it was doing its job. The sun was setting when someone finally had the sense to call the actual cave rescue people. These are the folks who do this stuff for fun on weekends. They squeeze through gaps that wouldn't accommodate a house cat. One of them, this wiry guy who probably weighed 130 pounds soaking wet, managed to get close enough to assess the situation. And this is where the story gets weird. The problem was her clothes. Her jeans, her shirt, her sports bra, all of it soaked, all of it adding just enough bulk in exactly the wrong places. In a passage that tight, an extra half-inch of fabric is the difference between moving and not moving. It's the difference between getting out and dying in there. So they had to get her clothes off. And before you get the wrong idea, understand that this was done with extreme care by professionals who were trying to save a teenage girl's life. But still, imagine being 17, stuck in a stone coffin, hypothermic, and having strangers strip you down because it's the only option. There's no good way to handle that situation. They did their best. Then came the cooking oil, actual vegetable oil from someone's kitchen, brought down in a bottle. They coated her skin with it, every inch they could reach. It was humiliating and desperate and completely necessary. Even then, it took another hour. They had to support her weight, guide each limb through the curves, slide her millimeter by millimeter. The rock still didn't want to let go. They were pulling her out of a geological trap that had taken millions of years to form, and it fought them the whole way. When Emma finally emerged, she was barely conscious. Naked except for underwear, covered in oil and limestone dust, and her own blood from where the rock had scraped her raw. Her core temperature was dangerously low. The paramedics wrapped her in thermal blankets that looked silver in the emergency lights. They got warm fluids into her, got her stable, got her to a hospital. She spent 2 days there. Hypothermia, dehydration, exhaustion, mild shock. But nothing permanent. No broken bones, no lasting damage. At least not physically. I think about Emma sometimes. I think about how she went into that cave as someone who thought she had geology figured out and came out knowing that the earth doesn't care how experienced you are. It doesn't care how prepared you think you are. Sometimes it just decides to squeeze, and whether you make it out depends on luck and timing and whether the right people show up in time. She never went caving again. I don't blame her. Some people would call that giving up. I call it learning the right lesson. The pretzel is still there, by the way, still waiting, and it'll wait as long as it takes.